was tough, and I think it, it really depends on the riding too. My riding, Regina-Elphinstone, includes kind of one of the most kind of lowest socioeconomic outcome neighborhoods in Canada. A lot of transient folks in terms of like changing address and stuff. So, not to get too far into the weeds, but, phone lists and other ways of reaching people, online, over the phone become less, useful in that situation. So it was a real challenge. That said, we were door knocking. There were some early limitations on that. We couldn't do a lot of like pre-writ stuff. I think we were being careful because we were sort of waiting to see where the chips fell in terms of the numbers. But as we approached the election, the numbers were looking okay. And, we had guidelines, and I think everyone was being pretty careful, but, people didn't want to answer the door, and then more importantly, there was an issue with not enough of our people coming out, right? Like that was just not everywhere, but certainly, and I know that had to do with the pandemic, and, other things too. I mean, the media was basically reporting early on that, that we had no chance against the Sask party and all that other stuff that might kind of dissuade voters from braving a pandemic to cast their ballot. But it was interesting, like much like the Democrats, really won on the mail-in ballots. Those were our people for sure. So, I would suggest that any kind of more progressive party that's facing down an election should think hard about their strategy around getting out the vote early. But then, it was interesting to me that, there is quite a large number of people that resist that, and they want to go in person, and they want to cast their ballot, and they want that tactile, like, experience. So, but yeah, it was weird because, I kept like looking around at my colleagues, and and they were just like, yeah, like this sucks. This is your first election, and it's hard. You really want to get out and connect to people. It's a lot tougher. It's, if you're a new face, people don't recognize you without a mask on. But it was, it's the times we live in, right? So
yeah, it's absolutely true. I couldn't imagine trying to door knock in my riding per se, or any riding, like what a strange situation to be in.
It's totally strange. But the one thing I will add is it is an exciting time too, because it's opened up some conversations, I think, like, around, building back from the pandemic. And, we have like a poverty crisis in Saskatchewan. I mean, we have a lot of last place trophies, as I like to call them. Like we have the worst minimum, we have the lowest minimum wage. But we also are like ranked some of the worst in terms of poverty, and specifically child poverty. And that hits my riding pretty hard. And, I think psychologically people are more sympathetic to feeling that vulnerability. And it's sort of opened up the conversation around, how we support folks that are struggling, because that didn't used to be as newsworthy. But I think as people feel, they're a paycheck away, or lots of folks have had to rely on support in one way or another, this is an important, opportunity to kind of, engage in those conversations. It's been an interesting kind of lesson in how we, organize in the face of kind of big collective crises, and hopefully, it has application to the climate crisis, all of these things. So it was really tough to campaign and stuff, but it was also exciting because it was, you just felt this electricity around people's kind of being open to ideas for the first time that they maybe weren't open to before.